My name is Jane Borowski. In 1988, when I was just 22 years old, I was attacked and stabbed 27 times and left for dead. I am a survivor. In the 1970s and 80s, women's bodies started to surface in the Connecticut River Valley between New Hampshire and Vermont. Is my case related to these cases? This is unknown. Why? Because all the cases still remain unsolved. Are all the cases related in the work of one serial killer? We don't know that either. But law enforcement did form a task force in the 80s to investigate all of them. I've joined forces with my co-hosts Amanda and Drew. Together, we are a voice for the voiceless. We advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves while remaining factual and engaging with empathy. The Invisible Tears team is transparent and opinionated, never claiming to be anything we are not. We aren't law enforcement, we aren't private investigators or journalists. We are victim advocates who care and want to help families.
So make sure you subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any episodes. You can find us on all platforms through our link tree in the show notes. There you can find our social media platforms, our YouTube, and our website with our merch. You can also find our Patreon there. So if you're interested in supporting and joining the Invisible Tears team, join our Patreon today. And as always, ratings and recommendations help our podcast in algorithms. So if you haven't shown us some love and given us a 5-star rating and review, please do so. We appreciate each and every one of you and your continued support.
Welcome to Invisible Tears. Today I'm here with my wonderful hosts, Amanda and Drew's with us today. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey, Jane. Yay, Drew's here.
Drew's here. How are we doing today?
Not too bad. How are things going on your front?
It could be better, but it's a whole different other story. Talking about stories, today we're going to talk about Patricia Ann Wood. Now, this story kind of is interesting to me because of two reasons. One, it's very local to the Keene, Hinsdale, Winchester area. It's centered in Swanzey, New Hampshire, which is down the road from where I was attacked. So I hadn't really heard much about this story until we started podcasting and stuff. And I was like, wow, there's not much news about this. So we're going to go into it. Patricia Ann Wood, she's missing and possibly was murdered. So Amanda, why don't you kick us off?
Thanks, Jane. Yeah, so I mean, as Jane said, Patricia Ann Wood, is she missing? Was she murdered? I don't know, you guys be the judge. Technically, she is categorized as a missing, endangered, under suspicious circumstances. So Patricia Ann Wood was born October 12th, 1972, to Bonnie Lee Sprigg and John Michael Wood. Bonnie and John met in South Carolina while John was in the Navy. Shortly after they met, Bonnie got pregnant with Patricia. And a couple of months after Patricia was born, John and Bonnie split. And John ended up taking Patricia with him to live in Swanzey, New Hampshire. So after John ended up in New Hampshire, he married Judith Ann Clay Woodman, who had 3 other children from a prior marriage. John, Judith, Patricia, and Judith's 3 other children, who were older than Patricia, all settled into a blended home.
During Patricia's first couple of years of life, there were concerns about abuse. This is verified through Patricia's biological mother, who cooperated with newspaper reporters that were digging into Patricia's case. So Bonnie was able to obtain verified medical records indicating that Patricia was treated frequently at the Keene, New Hampshire clinic from 1972 to 1974 for various injuries and weight loss. In April of 1974, Patricia had to be hospitalized at the Dartmouth Hitchcock Hospital in Hanover, New Hampshire, with brain swelling, convulsions, cuts across her chest, and during this visit and eventual stay in the hospital, Patricia briefly collapsed into a coma. Doctors reported suspected abuse with this incident. Of course, she was what, 2?
Yeah.
Patricia was removed from John and Judith's home and placed in foster care for 4 months. During the 4 months that Patricia was in their care, it is reported that both John and Judith received counseling at a private mental health center. In August of 1974, Patricia was released back into the care of John and Judith Woods. Unbelievable.
Yep.
No reasoning has ever been published about why Patricia was returned to John and Judith. Child Services has gone on record stating they monitored the family for the next 6 months, then closed the case after seeing no further signs of trouble.
Allegedly, I guess.
Now, this stance directly contradicts the Keene Clinic doctor, Charles McMurphy, who wrote twice during that time to a social worker, noting unexplained bruises and cuts on the girl and weight loss that resumed after she was returned to John and Judith. Dr. McMurphy stated he received no response. Patricia also missed several appointments at the clinic after returning to John and Judith, including one visit during the time when Child Services was apparently still monitoring this case. In a direct quote in the Lewiston Daily Sun on October 22nd, 1987, the director of the State Division for Children and Youth Services, David Bundy, states that if Dr. McMurphy suspected abuse, he should have come right out and said so, quote unquote, noting that his letters did not constitute a report of abuse. In fact, stating that one of the letters, it began by him stating that, quote unquote, in general, Patty was doing well. In this article as well, Bundy acknowledged to the newspapers that routine shredding of agency files left few records on the case, including which social worker specifically was responsible for overseeing this.
Of course.
But he concluded that, quote unquote, based on what we know, I think the social workers did an exemplary job. The Attorney General's office noted that Bundy was new to this appointment, so he had no skin in this game protecting anyone within the agency to what they did in the past.
I like how the Attorney General actually called that out though too. Like, oh, just so you know, like he's new into this. Like, so he has no reason to protect anybody. I find the splitting hairs of that and placing the blame back on the doctor. He should have just come out and said so. Well, what do you think him writing to a social worker talking about unexplained bruises and injuries actually is? It doesn't matter how he started it. Overall, she's doing okay or she's doing well, but then you go in and you detail bruises and abuse.
Yeah.
That it's bullshit to sit there and place the blame back on the doctor saying, no, that wasn't an actual claim of abuse. Bullshit. Yes, it was.
There was already a history, so they should have reinvestigated the whole thing.
Yep. So now with that article that Drew was just talking about, that was October of 1987. That's because it was finally known that Patricia was actually missing. Yes, I know how odd that sounds, so let me just recap. Quick timeline, okay? So Patricia was born in October of 1972. By April of 1974, she was hospitalized from abuse. She almost died. She went into a coma. She was removed from John and Judith's home for 4 months and returned to their home in August of 1974. By April of 1975, DCYF had closed the case of abuse after allegedly monitoring the situation afterwards, right? By April of 1976, Patricia had actually disappeared, but she was not officially reported as missing until August of 1987. So when family and friends asked John and Judith where Patricia was after she disappeared in April of 1976, they told them that Patricia had been sent to South Carolina to live with her biological mother, Bonnie. That's where she lived at the time. Bonnie didn't learn about any of this until police called her and questioned her in August of 1987. There's also a note in Patricia's Charlie Project file that I found that states that John and Judith actually told Bonnie. So once Bonnie sort of became aware and was like, what? Like, where is she? Like, what's going on? There's a note in that profile that actually says that John and Judith told Bonnie that Patricia had been killed in a car accident.
I have so many questions about this. Bonnie's her mother. Bonnie hadn't wanted to talk to her in over 10 years.
I kept on questioning pieces about that too. Like, it's really not clear when that communication was actually told to Bonnie, right? I don't know. I couldn't find anything else about that.
I just can't wrap my head around that. Like,
I can't either.
why would you not want to talk to your daughter in 10 years? Like,
or see her.
See her. She was 2.
Yeah. Or see her too. Yeah.
I don't understand that. I'm kind of curious about, what was the circumstances of Patricia going and living with John, but we don't have more accurate information about that.
Nope.
What was Bonnie's life like? Like,
right.
Did she have mental illness? Was she an addict?
Right.
Why? There's got to be a reason why she didn't want to contact her child for over 10 years.
Yes, I agree, Jane. I was, as much as I dug, I couldn't figure out any of those pieces, but I had those questions too. All I could come up with was whatever situation that she was in, she didn't have the ability to have custody of her child.
So on August 20th of 1987, the police went to question John and Judith. John was unavailable, but they were able to speak with Judith. The day after Judith was questioned, both her and John committed suicide at their High Street residence in Swanzey, New Hampshire, by running a hose from the exhaust of their car to the window. The note that they left didn't provide any answers as to where Patricia was or what happened to her. The older step-siblings of Patricia were forthcoming with how Patricia was treated. They stated that their mother, Judith, frequently disciplined her. The youngest sibling told his biological father, other relatives, and later police that his mother and his stepfather, John, drowned Patricia in a bathtub and buried her in the backyard. 3 days after John and Judith committed suicide, police dug up the backyard but didn't find Patricia or any sign of her. It's reported that they also checked local mine shafts but found nothing.
And that was in 87?
That was 1987. When Stan Woodman, Patricia's step-sibling's father and Judith's ex-husband, was asked about his son's account of what happened to Patricia, he stated that while the story had never changed, he thought it was too far-fetched for anyone to believe, so he never told anyone. Now, Patricia's biological mother, Bonnie, cooperated with all law enforcement and even journalists in an attempt to try to figure out what happened to her daughter. She even wrote the then governor multiple times asking for what happened to her daughter and how she could have fallen through the cracks and why was she put back into such an abusive situation. No one ever answered her, and DCYF and the AG's office publicly put out in the newspapers that after initially investigating what happened to Patricia, the agency did not do anything wrong, and the Attorney General's office would not investigate the handling of this case any further.
There's the problem.
Yeah.
No accountability with DCYF in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody keeps covering up their horrible actions, their lack of doing their job.
Mm-hmm.
There is the problem.
Yes.
I mean, we just did a case on Boo last week.
Mm-hmm.
Pisses me off. DCYF never has to account for any of their mishandling.
Mm-hmm.
In the Attorney General's office, we see that even to this day. They just tout everything that they're doing great now, but do not answer for all of the shortcomings for decades. No apology for dropping the ball on any of these cases, no ownership.
No ownership
And
at
that's
all.
really what we as the public are wanting to see. Some accountability, some sitting there and saying, hey, sorry, we screwed up for so many years. You know, don't make excuses, but point out what were the reasons for these shortcomings. What was it that made this fall through the cracks? You can admit to those mistakes, and then all you do is you correct it so it doesn't happen again. The public will see that as improvements. The public would see that, but they just don't have to answer to anything because, hey, it was somebody else.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So obviously, we all have our opinions about this,
Mhm.
and we are definitely going to express our full-on, like, big-time opinions in our Patreon.
Mhm.
So right after this, you'll hear our Patreon episode, and if you want to really hear our anger, our raw opinions, join Patreon so you can listen to us.
Yes. Great
So,
plug, Jane.
interestingly enough, this wasn't acceptable to some New Hampshire lawmakers. State reps Mildred Ingram, David Young, and David Pierce went public, stating that the investigations were not thorough enough and introduced legislation to have the case reopened. In a direct quote from Representative Pierce from Keene, he said, if the House passes the resolution, it will instruct the Speaker to set up a committee to investigate the agencies that were involved in the case, which should be.
Right.
Another interesting point noted by these lawmakers was in a meeting with the AG's office, some responses they provided regarding the case weren't sufficient, including that they could not answer if the daycare center at John and Judith's residence that they were operating was licensed. They had a daycare center.
I was absolutely shocked at this sentence. I was like, you got to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me. And it sounds like that there were quite a few other specific questions that lawmakers were asking the AG's office that they had no clue about. Like they stunned them. But that was the only question that they publicly put out in an article. All the other questions they wanted to keep close to the vest.
Yeah, apparently this was just one of the many questions they didn't like the answers to, but they would not speak on anything further and publicized since it was part of the criminal investigation. Of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Just to think there was a daycare at this residence is horrifying. Horrifying.
Yes.
I would love to talk to somebody that actually sent their child to that daycare. I would like to know who the hell sent their child to the daycare. Obviously, I mean, I'm not going to judge you. Obviously, if you sent your child to that daycare, you were not aware of Patricia and Patricia's case. Okay, I'll let that go. I'm going to save the rest for Patreon.
Yep. And I'll just chime in and add in that if your child did, I know how many local listeners we have, and this is a very local case, right? If your child did actually go to this daycare, message us. We just want to talk with you. Again, like Jane said, no judgment. No judgment, zero judgment. But we just want to know, we want to know people within the community. Do you remember them having a daycare? Do you remember them advertising for it? Do you remember any kids that went to it? Just let us know.
Do you know if they were licensed? I really want to know that. This push by lawmakers was happening at the end of February of 1988. So this was a year after she was reported missing. Since there was no update that we could find to this, we do not believe that this push from lawmakers went anywhere. But we do welcome anyone with knowledge of how this went. please let us know.
Yes, please. I know that there may have been some sort of resolution to this, and it may have not just been out there in the papers, but I didn't find anything about it on extensive Google searches and newspapers.com. So please, guys, if you do know anything about this, let us know. We would love to know what ended up happening with this legislation.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Bonnie, Patricia's biological mother, passed away on May 21st, 2017 at UNC Hospital in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. We do not know if anyone is advocating for Patricia. We sure hope so. It sounds as if Bonnie has a surviving brother that lives in the Keene area, and her step siblings, I'm sure, are in the area as well.
Mm-hmm.
Hoping anyone has some information and can come forward to help bring about some justice for Patricia and find her. She's got to be in that backyard. I'm guessing that there's got to be more places in that backyard that they can dig. Or, I mean, Swanzey has a landfill. They put her in a trash bag and threw in the dump.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope that, I don't know. I hope somebody can come forward with more pieces of information. It's simply for Patricia. Patricia needs justice. Yes. And I would absolutely love if somebody had some sort of information.
Unfortunately, she's not going to see justice because her father and stepmother committed suicide. So there's a red flag, guilty. But it would be nice if they could find her remains and put her to rest someplace. She deserves that much.
Yeah.
If anything, she deserves that much. But yeah, if you have any information, Amanda's going to post contact information for you to contact. So if you have any information on her case, please come forward, know something, say something. I say that all the time. You never know if you're that puzzle piece that could solve this whole case or even find her. If you know that, if they may have been somewhere in a different area of Swanzey where they may have buried her, come forward, say something. And if you have any other information about the daycare or anything, email us. Let us know. We're really curious about that. And if there's any other information out there about legislation, contact us. But now we're going to go over to Patreon. Thank you for listening to Invisible Tears. Until next time, don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe. And, subscribe to Patreon. You're going to want to.
Thank you all for listening to this episode of Invisible Tears. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on all platforms through our link tree in the show notes. There you can find our social media platforms, our YouTube, and our website with our merch. You can also find our Patreon there. So if you're interested in supporting and joining the Invisible Tears team, join our Patreon today. And as always, ratings and recommendations help our podcast in algorithms. So if you haven't shown us some love and given us a 5-star rating and review, please do so. We appreciate each and every one of you and your continued support.